So it was a great episode with Christina.
Yeah.
She's always full of knowledge and awesome with the card ladder team. So it was great.
Yeah, she brought a lot of great perspectives. It's funny. I never watch back sports cards live or after hours. Like I've never watched my own show. I figure I live it, I do it. What's watching it going to do for me, right? But sometimes I just, I'm busy, I'm multitasking during the show, and I miss a couple things here and there. So sometimes I do want to go back. So what I like to do is, as viewers of the show know, is that I like to ask the after hours guests to kind of watch the episode before, if you can, and bring a couple of maybe nuggets of information that stuck out to you or you found interesting or resonated with you, whatever it may be, that we can talk about to provide a bit of continuity between the two episodes as well. So let's start off with that, and then we'll get to know you a little bit for mine and everyone else's benefit. So anything that kind of stuck out to you in that last episode?
Yeah, so a few things. The first one, just to touch on slightly, was Christina's, I guess, attention to like card detail. I felt like it was pretty neat for her to, talk a little bit about how she kind of had her spinoff and like went into more of the aesthetics of the card. And then when you were presenting your card, she kind of did her own little like demonstration of that as well. So I thought that was really neat. And I think it's kind of something that I somewhat resonate with as well. Like today I went to a card shop and I picked up a card specifically just because I liked the way it looked. I was like, yeah, I feel like this is a great looking card. I'm just going to buy it just because of the appeal. Wasn't anyone I really collect. It was just like, no, this card looks good, so I'm going to buy it.
Yeah. Let me just say two things come to mind there. The first one is when she was doing that and I brought back the one card, it's like, I almost brought it back because I wanted to hear her say something that would make me like the card even more than I already do. Like I love these cards. There's no, like, I love them, I wanted to see if she could make me love them even more. And she did with both the precious metal gem and the essential, with both of these two. She did make me kind of like them even more than I already do. I thought that was really cool. And then when she said about this one, if you see that in the showcase with a million other cards, it's going to pop out to you. And I think that's a good approach when you're shopping for cards. If you go to a card show and you're looking for something, it's like, what jumps out to you? It might not be the card you buy because you might not care about the player, but it might guide you towards a certain subset or insert that you might want for your player. So I thought that was a great, that's what I got out of that comment.
I mean, I can imagine as you being the owner of those cards, having someone kind of relay the, I guess, like artistry of the card is like music to your ears. You're like, yes, tell me more. Like, this is exactly why I like this card.
Yeah, totally. The whole part about where your eyes go, not something that I think about. When I look at a card, I'm not thinking about where my eyes are going. They're just darting all over the, that 8 1/4 square inches. They're not, but I'm not tracking that direction. So that was really cool to hear her map out the path of sight when you are looking at a card based on its design.
Oh,
yeah.
That
was really cool. Yeah.
So that was one thing that stuck out to me. And then I know this kind of got brought up. I feel like you asked a question, then you were like, well, maybe, I don't know if that was a good question, but it was about how to like tips for getting other women like interested or things like that. So that kind of stuck out to me. And I was like reading like some of the comments that people were sharing as well. And so I think like there are a few things of like why women may get into it and like what makes them stay or what could pique their interest. And I think first off, for me personally, it's like having a connection to sports. I think that was the biggest thing for me, is kind of why I like found this hobby, so to speak, is just that connection to sports. And then I think second, it's possibly like just a person who has a collector mindset already. So I don't know. I think some women, they collect different things. I think I saw someone make a comment about like women collecting shoes or just like bags or anything like that. So like women, they do have a collector mindset. It's just, I think you have to cater it more towards their interests. And so if they're not interested in sports, they may not want to collect that as well. But then one thing that I really thought about was, honestly, I think it was talked about a little bit too, was just like bringing in the value of the card and the worth of the card as well. And I think sometimes, some people's significant others might think, why are you spending money on cards? Like, these aren't worth anything. But if you actually present to them, no, these are worth things. Sometimes they go up, maybe not in this market right now, but sometimes they go up and they do hold their value. I think that could just like, be an easier transition for them to kind of understand that as well.
Yeah, no, fair. I'm glad. I'm glad that you picked out those things, because I we didn't really get very far on that second question, because I think even with Christina, it's just like second nature to her. She it's almost like she doesn't see herself as being anything but a collector. Which, why would she? Why should she? Right? I mean,
Right.
and so it's like, I don't try to convince anybody. Why would I? I know what I like. You know what you like. So be on your merry way. You do you, right? So, okay. Let's say hello to, we have some people in the chat. Good evening. Welcome back, everybody. If you caught the episode with Christina, appreciate that. We have Sam with us, Sam Shuford. That's her right there. She is from the Women of the Hobby. That is her channel on YouTube. We're going to talk about that shortly, but we have Steve Sir here. Says, my little one fell asleep. That would be Etta he's speaking of. Well, a while ago, but I'm still going and excited for more sports card content. Happy to have you back again, Steve. We have Frankie back. Good evening again, Frankie. Hockey Guy says that PMG green is an eye grabber for sure. Great contrast. Yeah, the red jersey on the green background, the green foil for sure. Slow Pitch Fanatic, hello to you. Hello to you. Chris Knoll says, I can't believe I missed Christina. I was actually outside my house for once. Hello, Jeremy and Sam. Hello, Chris. And don't worry, Chris, you can go back and watch it. It'll be on the channel. Great episode. Check it out later when you have some time. And now you can watch it at like 1.5. So it won't take you 2 hours to watch it too, right? Triple V says, I wish my wife was listening to this right now instead of some dumb ghost show. Too funny, too funny. And there's Christina, says hello to Sam.
Hello.
And welcome back, Christina. Welcome back. Eric from Sanders and Door says, just subscribe to Sam's channel and we'll be checking it out. There you go. Awesome. Thanks for that, Eric, on behalf of myself and Sam. So,
yes.
So let's understand, how did you get into the hobby? Yeah, what was it about the hobby? What got you started with it? I know you love sports. You're a sports fanatic.
Yes.
But when did you make the leap from just being a sports fan to being a sports card collector?
Yeah. So I feel like there's kind of like a two-part, like, everyone kind of has cards when they're little, but then, they eventually grow out. And a lot of people I hear, I recently started collecting again. So my number one thing is I've always been into sports, super into sports. So as a kid, my parents got me the Sports Illustrated for Kids magazine. And so with that, there's actually like the tear out cards or whatnot. Yeah. So I had like a binder of those, like in the card guard, like it had a football, like leather, faux leather like pattern on the outside as well. So I had a collection of those cards. I would just get from the magazines, tear them out. I'm probably not looking for corners, not tearing them out gently, just tearing them out and putting them in the binder. So I had that collection when I was younger, but I wouldn't really say I went out and like bought packs. That wasn't something that I specifically remember. I kind of almost I remember getting the Sports Illustrated magazines, but it's kind of like a little bit blurry. But I found the cards recently. And so then I would say I graduated school May of 2020. And then also later in May of 2020, for some reason, I was scrolling around on StockX looking at, just different collectibles and items and things like that. And I came across sports cards. I was like, wait, I think I have those cards. Like, where's that binder that I had, from when I was a kid and had all those cards? And so that's just kind of how it spun and how it started through that. And luckily, I was at home at the time. I'd graduated school. My job didn't start until August. And so I was still with my parents, was able to find the binder, Mom, Dad, where's that binder I had? Do you still have it? So that was kind of fun, just looking back through all the things that I had. Obviously, most of it not really worth anything, like most people come to find. But yeah, just kind of going from there.
Of those SI for Kids cards, was there one or two that you're like, oh, this guy or this gal? Is there one or two cards that you took out? You're like, oh, I'm gonna put that's getting top loader treatment or anything like that you really love to this day?
Yes, actually, one of them is getting graded. It is a Steph Curry. It's 2008. So at the time, I was around 10 years old. So it's a 2008 year of cards that I had, and Here recently, I've also found I don't have these cards. I don't have them, but there is a Lewis Hamilton. Apparently, that is his rookie year, and also who else was it? Oh, Usain Bolt. Apparently,
Yeah.
those were also their two SI for Kids rookie cards. So I thought that was kind of interesting, just to, that was a popular year for the SI cards. But yeah, so that one Steph Curry I do have. I'm not sure it's going to grade well. I'm kind of just getting it graded because I'm like, this is probably one of the first cards I ever had, so I'm just going to get it graded.
Yeah, you've had that card for over 10 years, right? I mean, 12,
Exactly.
13 years by now makes that's a great card. Doesn't matter if it grades a 1, who cares, right? It's
Exactly.
about the card and the connection to your youth and that memory of getting those magazines and tearing those pages out and perforating the cards. And so do you have the Lewis Hamilton or the Usain Bolt? You're not, no?
No, I guess I didn't tear them all out. Because I know I had all the magazines and I used to like keep the magazines too. Like I used to have a stack of magazines and I don't know, I'm sure my mom was like, "You need to go through all of that stuff." And, eventually I got rid of it probably when I had no interest in it at the time. But no, I don't have those. I only had a few, but I was excited to see some of them. Like obviously the Steph Curry. There's like a Kevin Durant. I guess technically it would be like his second year SI Kids. That one was a little interesting. There's also something that they did there, which kind of leads into, I guess, a little bit more artistry. It's like these like animated cards. They're still SI for Kids cards, but it's more like a drawing and like a sketch. So a little bit different.
So are you basically saying then that it was kind of, you had those cards as a kid and rediscovering them kind of after graduating from school, it rekindled and almost sparked your interest and your entry into the sports card hobby now? Is that what
Yes.
happened? And
Yes.
so, well, you have to keep on if you were going to say something there.
Oh, no, that's
No?
all.
Okay.
Sorry.
So how did you go from those cards to cards of today? Like, what did you do next? Did you say, oh, you were on StockX,
Mhm.
and that made you remember to go back to the SI cards? But what happened after that to get you active into the hobby with like modern day cards?
Yeah, so from there, essentially, I probably did what a lot of people did. I like went to Walmart. I know Christina had her Walmart story as well. I went to Walmart and I was so out of touch with whatever. I literally didn't even know where the card section was. I called my dad. I was like, "Dad, where are cards in Walmart? I don't even see them." At that time, maybe they weren't there, but they were. They were there. It was still a little bit before the retail craze got really crazy. So I went there to look, and they had like a few packs of, I think it was like 2019 Prestige, and so I started like opening some boxes. And then one thing that I actually did just while I was home, because it's kind of a smaller town, I started going to like kind of like not flea markets, but just like thrift stores and things like that to see if they had any older like cards and collections that I could look at. I found a few, nothing too crazy. A lot of it kind of was like a lot of the like junk wax items, so to speak. So from there, I went like different, antique stores and things like that. And then I really kind of took a big leap as well as going to my first card show in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So it's around 45 minutes away from my hometown. So I went there in the summer and it was actually it was a little overwhelming because I really had no idea what to expect at the time. Mosaic blasters were going for like $45. I think I saw one today going for $145. So it was different times for sure. But it was really interesting. And one thing that I don't know if it made me stay, but it definitely made me more intrigued was I actually saw someone that I knew from college. So I went to school at University of South Carolina, went to a card show in South Carolina, and then I saw someone that I did not know collected cards at all. And I was like, wow, this is so interesting. Like, I see someone that I know at a card show. Like, I didn't even know you collected. So I just thought that was kind of neat, just seeing it maybe as a way to meet other people as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. So here's a question. It's a tough question to answer, but I'm going to ask, why do you like cards?
Um,
And I don't mean the community
mhm.
and all that. Why do you like the cards themselves?
I think for me, it goes back to the connection with the team. So Any Carolina Panthers card that I see, I want it. I don't even care if the player like is still on the team. Like I'll take it. Like that's for me. So it's just something about like just the connection that I have to the team for me is something why I really like the cards. I think I don't know. I've grown up. So I've to give a little background detail on like the Carolina Panthers. I've grown up going to these games literally since I was in the womb. So I've been going to the games forever, and so it's just something that I like to have is kind of like a connection to the players and to the players that we used to have and the seasons that we had as well. I especially like getting like someone sent me some older cards from like I want to say Jonathan Stewart, like D'Angelo Williams, so 2008 to like 2015 type of year cards. So I was like, this is awesome. Like I was so into the Panthers at that time. So it's kind of just like reminiscing on the sports team that I love.
That's a fair answer. I mean, it's a nostalgia, right? It's connects us to something. So then let me ask you this. As far as the cards themselves goes, you said any card that shows a, because I was going to say to you, like, do you prefer shiny cards, paper cards, horizontal cards, vertical cards, like that, slab cards, raw cards, that kind of. But it sounds to me if they're wearing that Carolina Panthers jersey, you don't care what the card looks like. That's it. What's your favorite card style? Your favorite brand these days? Yeah, anything there that you can speak to?
Yeah, something that I've come to realize that I think I like more is really like the color match. Like when a card matches the team's colors, I think like aesthetically that really looks good to me. And obviously being a Panthers fan, a lot of the like blue cracked ice cards and just like the blue parallels, I think they look well with the cards. So that's kind of something that I would be more drawn to if I happen to see it. And then I would say, I mean, the horizontal versus vertical, I would say I prefer a vertical card just because if you do want to ever get it like slabbed or in case, you know, some people like to do it with their PC, some people don't. It does look a little weird if it's being horizontal and then the grade's like written the other way. So it's just kind of like a weird thing with the horizontal cards. But
yeah, I hear you for sure with that. I heard one of the newer grading companies is coming out with a horizontal slab, which I think is a real huge sort of differentiating factor for them. And if a PSA or a BGS were to come out with something like that, I think the hobby would really like it. Now all of a sudden we need new supplies, right? Because they're going to have different shape. We need new little like graded card bags. We need new shaped cardboard boxes to hold them in and all that, right? So, but that would come with it. So, okay, let's say hello to some more. We have some more comments in the chat. We'll say hello to some more people. Then we'll get on to the next sort of topic. So, Robert Rothenberg, glad you could join live. Happy to have you live, Robert. Welcome to the show. Toa says here to support the women. I wonder if any of the women consciously try to collect cards of women at all. That's a good question. I do know. I heard a woman on, I forget what podcast it was, a few months ago, who only collects cards of women, and this was a woman who had to be, you know, a bit older than yourself, Sam. I think because she mentioned graduating like university in maybe the 70s or 80s, something back there. So, but how about you? What about you? Do you have any affinity towards collecting cards of women?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about as well. Her name is escaping me and her Instagram, but she collects a lot of like vintage older women as well. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
What show did I hear her on? Do you know what show she was on?
No.
Maybe it might have been Stacking Slabs.
Oh yeah, maybe. But yeah.
But how about for yourself?
So yeah, I actually I think it's still to this day, yes. Like the only hobby box that I've ever opened is WNBA Prism. Number one, because it's the most affordable for me. Yeah. And then number two, it was the first year of WNBA Prism. And also because I went to South Carolina. Our women's basketball team is really good. We won the national championship my freshman year, so that was super exciting. We had Asia Wilson, we have Dawn Staley, who's like a great coach. And so I do collect, I collect Gamecocks and Dawn Staley, so I have several of their Prism parallels. I have like the Dawn Staley autos. So I collect a lot of them just because I think we have quite a few players in the NBA actually from South Carolina. Like at least, I want to say at least like 5 or 6. So that's like quite a few in terms of WNBA players. So I do try and collect them whenever I see them. So yeah, I try and consciously collect women.
Wasn't Dawn Staley just part of this Hall of Fame class?
I believe so.
She was with Kobe and Kevin Garnett, and Tim Duncan. Just like, yeah, I'm pretty certain she was, because I was not familiar with Dawn Staley, but now I am. I think it's because I watched that whole Hall of Fame ceremony, the whole event, and I believe she was one of the inductees. And you got to hear her whole story, very inspiring, and I'm certain it was her. So that's really cool, Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and I know, not sure if it was for last year's Olympics or maybe this year's Olympics. I think she's the Olympic coach, like, took over for Gino this year. So.
Oh, great. Okay. Chris Hayes says, love that SI for Kids is still bringing kids into the hobby. Or, and you're not a kid anymore, but it brought you in as a kid and now it's bringing you back as an adult. That's pretty cool. Cocky Guy says, that's a great question. Not sure which one, but thanks. Hey, Chris, if that was a question I asked, send it to me so I can maybe ask it to future guests if it's that great of a question. Thank you so much. Chris Hayes says, nostalgia. If only I could ask my 10-year-old self why I liked cards. For sure. Lee Haskins got here late. I've watched Sam for a while, so very cool to see her talk more as a guest than a host. That's a great, we've got a bunch of comments. We'll get them, but then we're going to talk about what you're doing with your channel and your show and all your inspiration for that and everything. I think Chris is talking here about the color match. Green parallels are very popular for Oakland A's fans. That makes sense. Yeah. Adventures with Troy says, I appeal is something we all have with this hobby for the most part, right? I mean, you want to collect things that you like to look at for sure. Mike, appreciate that comment right there. Very much, very much. Chris Noel says, maybe Sam will say hello to me. He's trying to get Christina to say hi. But Christina, if you're listening in the background and not looking, say hi to Chris so he can get off your back. But meanwhile, do you want to say hi to Chris?
Hi, Chris.
There you go. We got a hi for you, Chris. Very funny, very funny. Triple V says color team match parallels. Yeah, have always been an optimal choice unless it's gold black. Okay. Hello, Joe R. from Colorado. Great to have you. Costa, good evening to you. Local collector who I've known for quite some time. Love what you collect, says Dawn Staley is beyond a legend, both on and off the court, for sure. I'm sure we're going to get down here someone confirming that she was just inducted to the Hall of Fame. Lee Haskins says, I have a few very cool rookie SI cards of Mia Hamm. Great cards. What else do we have here in the comments? Here we go. The question was, why do you like the cards themselves? Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Christina's working. That's why she's not responding to Chris, who gets a good kick out of it. Very good. Tyler says that her husband, Deuce Staley, was a good running back for the Eagles and is now a coach. Don's the better athlete, though. Awesome. And Costa says, did you guys watch OHL Sarnia Sting drafted the female goalie? I mean, that's a junior hockey team in Ontario, so you're probably off your radar, Sam. But yeah, I did hear about that. A female goalie drafted to a competitive male hockey team. So interesting for sure. So, women of the hobby. You got back into the hobby in 2020. Tell us what was the catalyst for you to start the channel? What was your goal with it? Well, let's just start with I don't want to overwhelm you with too many questions because I'll lose track of myself. So what got you started with creating that channel? Why did you create it?
Yeah. So I think so. As I mentioned, when I went to the first card show, I saw someone that I knew. So we continued to connect, hey, I saw you at the card show. It was great seeing you, that type of thing. But then beyond that, I started working with my job. I was working in a new city. So I really didn't feel like, I guess I had like hobby friends, so to speak. And we were in a pandemic too, so you can't just go out and meet people. Yeah. So that was a little difficult for me personally. And so I really wanted to just like have other hobby friends that I could talk to about cards, because I really think I was running my parents' ears off. They were not really a fan of me continuing to talk about cards 24/7. So they were like, yeah, you should probably talk to someone else. So
now, if you were my daughter, don't stop talking. My daughter's 4, so we'll see if I get there when she's older, but please continue.
So that was really kind of what my motivation was behind creating Women of the Hobby, and it also being, I think Christina mentioned she had someone continuing to message her bro and man and all these things. So I did have a Twitter account. I was probably more active on Twitter before Instagram, but I like just doing like small little deals, buying here and there, and just like following different people. And a lot of people, I had she, her in the bio, and they would still message me like, hey, bro, like, hey, man. I'm sure it was just like a copy and paste message to everyone. But at the same time, I was like, come on, at least read the bio. Um, so that was like another thing. I was just like, I don't really see too many women out here. I saw a few, but I didn't see too many. So I thought it would be neat. I'm cool with the guys. I can talk with the guys, but I also wanted to talk with women who collected and like get their perspective on it as well and how long they'd been doing it. And so that was kind of the whole reason why I wanted to start it up. And I was, yeah, somewhat self-interested just because I was like, I need other women to talk to. Like, I need like to find other women. So that was one of the main reasons too.
Yeah. I just want to bring this up. Toa says women's cards as a whole are so underrated, especially the legends. But here, Chris Hayes says Loyola Wynn was the OG for female 2020 card boom content creators, but she retired early like MJ. And I don't know if you're familiar with Loyola, but yeah, you are. I remember her and kind of didn't really realize it. Yeah, I haven't seen much of her lately. And I was subscribed to her channel and all that. She was really into it for quite some time. So you're definitely not alone and not the first female to start a channel, obviously, but you're doing the interview style, bring on a guest. And Hannah, she collects cards as someone that you've kind of, I don't know if you've partnered up, but you have her on quite often with you. How did that come about with Hannah?
Yeah, so I guess I had the idea for Women of the Hobby. I would say I started thinking about, really trying to create more of a community, just more awareness and visibility for women overall, probably towards the end of last year. So like November, December timeframe. I didn't really start it until I want to say like January, February, started putting things in motion. And a lot of that was due to Hannah. She probably doesn't like getting credit like that. She's pretty humble, but I found her show or her channel, and I was like, okay, no, this is like the catalyst. This is why I'm gonna do this. Like, I see her out here. Like, I'm definitely gonna create this community and just like make it open for more women to find other women. And so that's kind of what kind of kickstarted it all, was seeing her channel, and seeing her out there doing it. So yeah, she was just kind of an inspiration to just like keep it going, essentially.
And so as you continue to plan your episodes and find more women to come on the show, how are you being received and how do you go about wrangling guests for your show?
Yeah, so I think there was like a lot of really good positive feedback that we had in the beginning. I had a lot of like supporters. I know I was the Card Talk Pod guys, they were super nice having me on a few times and doing some different things that got I guess a little bit of like promotion of like the new kind of community that there was for other women to hopefully find it as well. So I think it's been received pretty well. And in terms of finding women, so initially I was a little worried. I was like, what if I run out of like women, like enough, like what if there's not enough women out there? But no, that fear has quickly been eradicated. So there are enough women out there. And I don't know, I don't really have like I guess like a direct, like not a directory, but like a specific way of like process of how I pick things out. I just kind of a little bit of random. I try and include people who are new, who have been in it for a while, just try and get a whole diversity of perspectives. That's kind of the biggest thing is, if I've had, maybe 2 or 3 veterans recently, okay, maybe I'll try and get someone who's new, just kind of keep it a little bit different. I think is the best thing that I've been trying to do.
Yeah. And I mean, I know for just myself, since I discovered you and we communicated, I've sent you a few, I don't know, like links to Instagram accounts for some women that I've known. Like, just, hey, I don't know if you've come across this woman in the hobby yet, but if you haven't, here's potentially another, more pipeline for you to keep your show with unique guests, right? Because it can get tough to keep them unique. I mean, it can be tough for looking for male, not male, just
Mhm.
any guests, never mind focusing on female guests. But like you said it earlier, you're not just looking to communicate or build the community with women, you're open to doing it with men too. Have you yet, or will you feature male guests on your show, Women of the Hobby?
Yes, yeah. So that was a goal. So essentially, I guess kind of like the cadence of the show is like every 2 weeks I bring on like a new woman and we kind of interview more of their experience and things like that. And then weekly, Hannah and I kind of do like somewhat of like a market update, what we've been up to in the hobby. And we've been trying to find different guests. So Christina was on. We also had Yam Wax on, so that was super awesome.
Yeah, I saw that.
So he was one of our male guests that we had on, but I am trying to get more males. I asked one of my friends, but he has like a conflict like for work that he can't really be on. So we're still working, just trying to get that, going as well. But the thing about people, you've messaged me different people to add, and a lot of people have done so. Like a few accounts, like, they'll consistently every few weeks they'll send me a new account like, hey, I just found this person, you should follow. So it's nice like having the community help you find different people that you can reach out to. That's super helpful. And also one thing that I've like just did this past week was do like so each week I have a woman of the week, and essentially that's just highlighting a new woman that I think people should go out and follow. It's highlighting their collection, who they PC, just a few different questions like that as well. And I created like a nomination form, so that's in the bio as well. If people want to go out and nominate someone for the week, I have that form in there just to try and get the community's help. Because, after a while it is like, okay, I don't want to be the only person deciding here. I think it should be up to other people as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And just, bringing other collectors on your channel, women particularly, I just kind of wonder how many women in the hobby are in the hobby, but uncomfortable about being a woman in the hobby. Because when I've been set up at card shows, when some of the female collectors, they come up to the booth and it's not like it's written on their face, but I can sense it, I can feel it. Just my gut tells me that they don't think that I'm going to take them seriously. They think that I might have a preconceived notion about why they're there. And that's not how I personally approach women at my booth at all. But am I onto something there? Do you yourself, even when you're at a card show, what goes through your head when you walk up to a particular vendor's booth? How do you feel? Any different than a guy might?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me personally, again, I know Christina mentioned all women are different. She probably had a different take on this, but yeah, I think for me, it's something that I'm a little bit more of a timid personality in general. So yeah, going in, I kind of just feel a little bit like maybe I'm not as well respected type of thing, or people just may not look at me the same way. Um, so it is a little bit of like a mental game for me sometimes going in. Like I can speak today. I went to a new card shop that I had never been to. And honestly, I sat in the parking lot before I went in and I was like, oh no, like what are they gonna say? Like they're gonna look at me like I'm a woman going in there. But it was actually kind of a good experience. It was something I didn't expect. The guy was like, wait, have I seen you before? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, what's your name? I told him my name. He's like, oh yeah, I've seen you. I was talking about Simone Biles. So that was like a very good experience for me. I was like, oh, he's seen me. He knows I'm like in this. So that was good. But in terms of like other, going to card shows and things like that, that is something that I think I kind of have to mentally just get over, or overcome essentially is, I do know what I'm here for. Like I've done the research as well. So that is something I experienced. And I'm not sure it's anything that, males or the people at the show do. It's just kind of something that I have in my own mind kind of already made up.
Well, but I think that's, to me, I have felt other women feel that. I hope that makes sense. But I literally, that's how I feel right now. I feel like I have felt other women feel that when they've come to my booth at a card show, and I just treat them like they're any customer coming up. And what are you looking for? Who do you collect? How do you approach the hobby? The questions I ask any person who comes to my booth at a show. And so it's part of it is in your head, but I get it because it's a male dominated hobby. And that's no secret. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact, I think I really want to see that change to where, it isn't quite where a woman might not have that feeling, and more male proprietors and vendors just kind of expect women to come in to collect, because why not? The cards are awesome, right? I mean, they're so artistic and beautiful. So a question that I've always wondered is how many women are in the hobby, and what percentage of the collector base is female? I know we're not going to be able to answer it,
Mm-hmm.
but I just want to bring up Mosaic Mind's comment because it's very similar to mine. He says, is there any trusted entity out there keeping track of the demographics of card collectors? What percentage of collectors are women? Is the percentage growing? So, I mean, I don't think we can answer what the percentage is. Is the percentage growing? My question to you tonight was going to be, are there more women in the hobby than we tend to think there are? And do you have an insight into that?
Yes. So I do think there are more women than you think, because I find new women every day. People send me new accounts to follow. And, I think I've seen some accounts that, are recent. Maybe they got here through their significant other, their family, whatnot. So there are people joining the hobby, women as well. But one insight that I do have, I can't remember when it was. I want to say probably over a month ago by now. But I did on my Instagram account, you can tell who is male and female, like on your interactions or things like that. And so for my account, I believe I had like 14% female, which doesn't sound like a lot, but to me that's kind of a lot, because I wouldn't expect, more than one out of every 10 people walking into a card store to be a woman. I would expect it to be less than that. But for reference, another account messaged me, and I think they were intrigued by that statistic, and they sent me their stats, and they said, oh, mine's only at like 5%. So I think that kind of gives you the range, probably because my Instagram is Women of the Hobby. That probably increases the amount of women interaction. But I would say that is some insight that I have into maybe the amount or like the demographics of women collectors.
Yeah, as you're speaking, I'm going to my YouTube analytics right now, because I've seen this before, and I want to see if I never remember where to go look for these different analytics, because I don't get into them a ton. Oh, there we go. Audience.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to tell me. Here we go. Oh boy, it's low, very, very, very low. It says so the last 28 days. And I think I don't know if Google, YouTube knows everybody's gender, but 0.3% female, 99.7% male on YouTube. Like that's lower. I thought it was higher than that. I feel like I've looked before. Let me go to Lifetime. I'm going to switch it to Lifetime and see if that changes at all. I go to Lifetime, female 3.8%, male 96.2%. So that's Lifetime, not just the last 28 days. I can't explain the last 28 days, why it would be so high for men or so low for women. But there we go, closer to 4% overall, 1 in 25 people. I mean, that's something, but it's still very low. I mean,
yes.
if we want to see major, I'd like 25% would be like, okay, we're getting there, but we're still far from 50-50. You're only halfway to 50-50 at 25. We'll probably never get there. And I guess, again, that's nobody's fault except for the women who haven't yet realized how cool the hobby is. And maybe that's on everyone in the hobby right now to expose them to that somehow. I don't know.
No, exactly. And I think one thing, I was actually really interested in just women getting into this market in general, because my whole thought process was, if let's say it's 5% female right now, if that doubles to 10%, I know that's kind of asking a lot for it to double, but I mean, just think of the amount of more money coming into the hobby, more people buying and different things like that. And so I just think it's an interesting aspect to look at, in a down market, people are, worried about things or whatnot, but, one way to kind of, counteract that would be to increase the hobby to more people, just make it available to everyone essentially. And it is currently, but I'm not sure that everyone is aware of it, type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder if just a lot of women think that that's for guys. Do
Mhm,
you like maybe with
mhm.
maybe several women would almost they think it's cool. They think the cards are cool. They like sports, but cards are for guys, so they might just like not even give it a chance. And that's I don't. I'm speculating. I have no idea, but I wonder if that's part of it. Could it be, or yeah, maybe not.
I think so.
You do.
Yeah, I kinda do. I think even because I think I kinda went that through myself, I've always been into sports, like, all my friends know I'm a super, like, sporty gal, so to speak. Um, but yeah, when it came to cards, I don't know why, I really didn't tell anyone, for, like, a while. Like, my parents knew, obviously, they knew. But, like, my friends, they had no idea I was doing this probably until, like, I started Women of the Hobby in, like, February. So I mean, I'd been in it for, like, over 6 plus months and hadn't told, like, any of my friends this was something I was doing, um, and I don't really know why that is. I think it had to do something with just, like I don't know, I just didn't tell them. It was, like, something again, me personally, I just didn't feel like sharing.
Well, and that's I can understand that. And trust me, that's not just for women. A lot of men have felt that way about collecting sports cards for a lot of time too, because it wasn't always a cool thing to do. It's only recently become considered kind of cool. It's not something that when I go meet new people, I'm like, hey, guess what I do in my spare time? I
Mhm.
still I still don't unless people ask, hey, what did you do during COVID or that kind of during the pandemic? Well, I started a YouTube channel and that kind of thing. Uh, but even as far as collecting cards goes, when I'd start a new job, unless I was getting into a personal discussion with somebody about our lives, then it comes up pretty quickly for me. But
Mhm.
it's not something that I just go offer out there to everybody. And sometimes it depends because I think human nature is we don't want to be judged by people or looked down upon for any reason or criticized or mocked or laughed at. That doesn't just apply to women, it applies to men too. So you're not alone in that as far as being a woman or just being Sam. So I get it. Um, what does what does your mom and your dad and your close friends, what do they think about the fact that you're collecting cards and doing your show? What kind of feedback have you gotten from them?
Yeah, so my parents, they are viewers of the show. Some of my friends, they follow the Women of the Hobby account. They follow my card account too. So they know that they're all out in the open and they're aware of what I'm doing. I'd say my family, I think they like it. They like that I found something that I enjoy and like they know it makes me happy. Obviously, if I continue to talk about it all the time, they know it's something that I really like. Sometimes I think my mom wishes I would spend my time on other endeavors just because I spend so much time on it. She's like, "You need to, like, go out and, like, do other things." I was like, "Yes, mom, I know, but I like this too." Um, so that's one thing, but then my friends, when I told them eventually, they they started I guess they told their families as well that this was something that I was doing, and, like, I have 2 very close friends, and one of them was like, "Yeah, I told my family, and now my dad's wanting you to come look at his baseball card collection and see what he has," and different things like that. So it was one of the responses, and then I told another friend and they were all on a family vacation together, and the Tom Brady like the first really big sale of his rookie card came up. I think it was around the time of the Super Bowl. And she sent me like a picture and was like, "My family wants to know if you know anything about this card and how much it's sold for and all these things." So they definitely like keep me in mind. I think when they hear anything about cards now, it's something that they're like, "Oh, Sam knows about that. She'll tell you all about it." So it's nice that they kind of are supporting it as well.
Well, you're seen as an expert, right? You're seen as a reference. It's and that happened. That I get that all the time. I get people. The funniest. It's kind of funny when people send me, and you probably have felt this by now too. They'll send you a link to a newspaper article or a news website with like a headline. Did you see this? Well, of course I saw that. Like I see it doesn't there's not much you can send me that I haven't seen yet, right? Because I'm constantly consuming hobby related news and content. So
Right.
it's like, yes, I did. But the thing that's great about it is that they're seeing it, and that the hobby is going more mainstream, which is just good for the hobby because we all want to see it grow. Let's go to a couple comments here. Sanderson Tor, Eric has left. So if you're listening to the rest of this later, Eric, good night and thank you for joining. Triple V says, seeing more and more women at the local card shops here in Austin, Texas, way more than when I was younger. Awesome to see. That's great. Chris Hayes likes the topic. Thank you, Chris. Mosaic Mind says, more collectors equals healthier hobby and bigger market. Yeah, I kind of just said that. Very much agree. Great comment. Chris says, card shows, at least the YouTube videos I see, can trend very strongly to bro culture. No doubt about that, right? Have you noticed that with a lot of the like YouTube content and that kind of thing?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. It's like when I go to a card show, do I think I'm treated equally? No, because I don't think they use the same language towards me as they do to like a guy or anything like that. So equally, maybe not so, but fairly, yes. Like I think everyone treats me fairly. It's just like obviously I think the way that they approach a woman in life in general is a little bit different than they approach a male.
So okay, because I can see us being at the National here, or even watching videos from the Dallas shows, and you see the trade nights, and you can just see the dudes like high-fiving and like, yo bro. It's like, but I think I do remember seeing a couple women in there. So at the National, if there's like a trade night, a lobby trade night kind of thing going up, and there's some women, can I go up to them and be like, yo sis, what up? Just like, be like, yo bro, what up? Not that that's the way I carry myself, but still, can other guys, like, is that something that, like, do women want to be treated? This is a dumb question. I'm going to ask it anyway. Do women in that environment want to be treated any differently than a guy would treat a guy? Than that, like, can bro culture include women?
Right. I think that's like being pretty specific here. I think the word bro is like, I think like in society it's understood like bro is kind of just like I think some girls say bro to each other, so it's just like the word bro specifically I think is probably okay. I don't know. I really don't know. It is a little bit of a different question. I think the one thing I will say though is like if we're all at the National and you see a group of women, I think something that they would to be included like everyone else. Like if we're off to the side, and you see us off to the side, like pull us in, to the big group or something like that. I think that's something that I would enjoy.
Yeah, no, that's it's important too that we are inclusive, and that like if we're at a trade night, I don't know if trade night seems so formal, and there will probably be a formal trade night that Ryan Card Collector 2 and his buddy Jimmy from Kentucky Sports Cards are trying to organize, I heard. But let's say there's an informal one and there's a bunch of dudes hanging out and there's, a girl standing there kind of not sure where to go. If that were to happen, it's like, I'd go grab her like, hey, what you got in your box? Let's see your cards. Like, I want to see what you have because you're a collector just like the rest of us here. So hopefully that happens and people make everybody, whether you're female or male, and you're just intimidated or feel intimidated or feel like you don't belong, or you might feel like other people might think you don't belong. That's not good. Like we as a hobby need to bring those people into the group and make them feel welcome, and look at their cards, ask them what they have. What do you collect? Like, we need to be inclusive, not just in the hobby. It's just part of life, right? Let's include everybody. It's just you're happier when you're inclusive, I find. So Joe says, honest reflections. Thank you, Sam. That's a nice comment, Joe. Thank you for that. Tyler says, I wonder how many women out there have been interested in cards, but societal pressures have kept them from pursuing sports cards as a hobby. I think I kind of thinking on the same level there. Yeah, that's kind of what. Yeah, great question. I think I asked the same question a few minutes ago. So yeah, on the same page there. Chris says, that's why we can't scare away the females who like the cards, because let's build the hobby. Oh, we have lots of comments here. So let's run through some more of these. Rodman, welcome, says that percentage is going to change after tonight's episode. I hope so. Love What You Collect, who is a woman, says, I'm happy to be a part of the 4%. So am I. Really happy you are. And I hope you know Sam. If you do not, you guys, maybe you can be on her show one day. Who knows? Maybe you can be on the next time we do Ladies Night on Sports Cards Live. Love What You Collect. If you're on Instagram, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, Chris Hayes says 90-10 is a win. 90 men, 10% women. I think that if you think we're at 5 to get to 10 would be a win, so that's right. Goes on to say 50-50 is just not happening. I tend to agree with that. Probably won't. Chrissy, I think this is Chrissy Bucket, says my ex would probably collect PSA 10 slab coupons. This could be a play. Interesting. He goes on to say she loves coupons. So Mike Zier says, this is the first time I've seen this young lady. It won't be the last. She knows her cards and sports. Good after hours. Thank you very much, Mike. And that's a compliment for you, Sam, for sure. Chris says Sam is legit, for sure. Joe R says, did Sam watch Super Bowl 50? LOL, we still miss Peyton these days, but glad to see lady collectors in the hobby. Awesome. Go Frank, go Broncos.
Yes, I did watch that.
You did watch it?
Sad.
Darcy, my buddy, says, hi, everybody. A little late to the show, but what do you collect, Sam? I missed that part. So she collects, well, I'll let you answer. You already told it, but basically Carolina Panthers cards. But is there anything else you can speak to that you collect, or is it just Carolina Panthers cards?
Yeah, so I collect Carolina Panthers, Carolina Gamecocks, and then I did mention as well, kind of like some of the Gamecocks, like the WNBA players who used to be Gamecocks as well. That's mainly what I look at. But I do, I know some people, as I mentioned, they kind of know me from like the Simone Biles cards. That's because like I was on Card Talk Pod for like I sent in one of their makeup plays, and so that was what I did it with those cards. So I mean I do look at other female athletes as well. Okay,
cool. There you go, Darcy. If you're still there, welcome. Rodman says cards are way cooler than any other collectibles. I mean, he's right. That's just world fact right there. Cards are way cooler than any other collectibles. Rage 508, yo, I'm here, brother. What's up, Jeremy? Welcome, Rage. Angie, who's been a loyal watcher for the last little while, says, do you believe it's a good time to collect Carey Price with his recent success in the playoffs? Goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens, who are on a playoff run, Final Four right now, just so you know, Sam, and if you didn't know. And I think right now, Angie, I mean, it's a great time to already have his cards. They're about to go up in value, especially if they can really challenge the Vegas Golden Knights in the conference finals here, for sure. Chrissy says bro is the PC term versus BRO, I guess. Baubles and Ball Card says one way to increase the percentage for the ladies is the guys with spouses and girlfriends to include them in their collecting. My wife absolutely loves cards because we do it together. See, that's great. She's also open to it, or you found a way to get her open to it, which is great. My wife, as I mentioned on the last show with Christina, she'll look at a card and say, oh, that looks cool, but she doesn't care to say, hey, let's see some more cards. Or she doesn't want to, what'd you buy? Like, or what's in that bubbler? Like, she doesn't really care to ask, but she
respects it, but maybe she's not interested.
There you go. Pretty much. Exactly. Mosaic went to high school with Steve Burline. Nice. And Yam says, Sam, thoughts on the Sam Darnold edition?
I don't know. At first, I was like really not a fan. I was like, there's a reason that I don't know. There's a reason he lost his job in New York, but no. I don't know. We'll see. I guess I don't know if I should have gotten more confidence from this, but I kind of did because I know throughout the draft, Mel Kiper was like really like hyping up Sam Darnold and was like, oh, I think he's going to do well, like with new additions and things like that. So, I mean, I guess some quarterbacks, it depends on their system. So. We'll see how it does. I'm still a little on the fence.
See, and I don't follow the NFL that closely, although I'm going into my first fantasy football draft this coming season. It's scheduled for the end of August. My first one since like 2003 was the last time I did a fantasy football. I had the first overall pick. I took Peyton Manning, and that was the right pick that year.
Yeah.
I've enlisted the services of a really good buddy of mine to help me with this because I'm just not on top, but I'm doing it as a mechanism to get more knowledgeable about current football because I'm just not there right now. Okay, yeah, I like this comment from Chris. Yeah, girlfriends' wives will humor you, but that's a big difference from real interest, which is the case for a lot of them. Back to Sam Darnold for a second. Mm-hmm. Again, in my lack of knowledge of current football, other than like Patrick Mahomes and obviously I know who the great veteran quarterbacks and many receivers are, and some running backs too. But But Sam Darnold, I seem to remember watching Ryan Johnson from Card Collector 2. He was I think he was doing a lot of Sam Darnold collecting like a year or two ago. So kind of when I think of Sam Darnold, I think of Ryan because I was consuming his content back then. So anyway, just a random thought that I have there.
Oh, well, yeah, I think he was, I don't want to say this is why, I don't think this is why he was doing it. I think he generally liked Sam Darnold, but I know Gary Vee was a big Sam Darnold guy as well.
Okay, I wonder if
So I think they were talking about it at the, I think I rewatched one of his national videos, Card Collector 2, and he was talking to Gary, and they were talking about, he was like, "Oh, I have some Darnold for you," like blah blah blah. That must have been like his rookie year or whatnot. So
well, because Gary Vee is a huge New York Jets fan. He wants his lifelong goal is to own the New York Jets at some point, I believe. Chris says, Jeremy, you're very good at being selective with my comments. Bravo. I can't get to every single comment, Chris, but appreciate that. Rodman says, is Sam into 90s cool inserts? Jeremy, let's mentor her because me and Rodman are huge into them. How about you? Do you have any have you been like in it ingratiated into the 90s insert era yet?
I have not. I mean, I like the 90s like cards because I think they're colorful. Like I picked up this card today. I'll show it. It's I guess it's an insert, but I just picked it up. This was the card that I picked up because I really liked the like color of it, but it's just like a Kevin Garnett tempered steel. It's worth
Nice.
like not much, but it was just like it's an insert from the 90s, but I don't think it's like the high end ones. Like I think you were showing like a jambalaya and the precious metals I've heard are precious.
Here. They're precious. They're precious. Yeah. Although I bought all this stuff before the recent craze, so they're more precious now than when I got, which is lucky for me. Here's a question from Darcy. Question about the Panthers. He says, are they more supported by North Carolina or South Carolina, and is the fan base crazy?
Honestly, I think it's pretty equal because the team is based in Charlotte. Charlotte is at the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. And they actually do their training camp in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and then they play in Charlotte. So I'd say it's pretty equal. I went to school in South Carolina. I've lived in North Carolina. There's Panthers fans in both. And then are they crazy? Not like Eagles or Steelers crazy, but
yeah. I know some crazy Steeler fans for sure. Yeah, totally. Chris says, if you're not into 90s inserts, put it on your to-do list. I agree. To me, 90s, you either started with 90s inserts as a collector, so you're still there. Not people who've been collecting since 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. So they started with those, but a lot of people started in the 90s, so they're still there. And if you didn't start there, a lot of people end up there, myself included. Like I started with 80s, and then the only time in my life where I wasn't like focusing daily on the hobby was that second half of the 90s, which ended up being what is now some of probably my favorite era in cards. And it's one of them. I have a couple. Anyway, I'm now focusing on it pretty heavily, and it's just the way the world works. The 5 years that you're not quite, immersing yourself in it is when and I wonder if that's why I'm so interested in it now, because I wasn't as hardcore back then. But I'm with you. Put it on your to-do list if it interests you, and it might not. Jordan Riker says, Sam, will you be going to the National? And if so, is there something in particular you will be looking to pick up?
Yes, I will be going to the National. I'm going Friday through Sunday. So I'm really excited. As I think Christina said, it was her first National. It's my first National as well. So I'm super excited to meet people, and something I'm looking to pick up. I don't know specifically. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit of that person who's a little cash strapped from orders at PSA, because like all my orders are still there, and so I'm like anticipating that bill coming to me soon. But I mean, I'll definitely be looking for different things. Just things that I like, things that I've never seen before. They don't have to be worth a lot of money. If I've never seen it and this is a cool card, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna buy it. Like I just like that type of stuff. So
that's a I said it I think maybe last week or recently that a lot of people feel like when you go to a card show, you need to have a plan. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that it's not a good idea to have a plan, but you have to leave yourself some flexibility too. And you have to allow yourself to move away from that plan, because you might see a card that you weren't expecting to see that you just have to have, and it could take up all your money. I've seen people, I've heard people go to a card show, they expect they're going to be there 5 days, and they are out of money by lunchtime on day one, because they see what they want and they buy it. And maybe it was within their plan or it wasn't. So my advice is, have an idea more or less about like maybe the amount of money total. Have a budget. That's part of a plan. And that might be the only plan you go with. To me, it's enough of a plan. But if you're a very particular specific collector where you're only looking for 8 cards left on your overall want list, well, then you have a very defined plan. But let your plan be a little bit, have some gray area to your plan, so that you can allow yourself to buy a card that you really, really that you really, really love, but you weren't expecting to find, or maybe you discover something new and you go off on a haul. You can also open up a whole new sub PC within your overall collection, just because you see a card you love. Like, I never knew that existed. I'm going to buy that for $100. And now that's going to cost you $2,000 because you need the whole checklist or all the cards of players on your team or something like that. So,
right.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay. Thanks for that question, Jordan. Bobble says, Sam, if you don't have it, you need to get the 94 Coca-Cola Monsters of the Gridiron set. Has a cool Panthers card in it. Something for you there. And Yam says, is Sam's generation going to be less interested in 80s and 90s cards? Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, you're of your generation. What do you think? And I was kind of thinking this in the back of my mind as we're talking about 90s inserts. It's like, really? Like, does everybody need to get there? So probably not, but speak to that a bit if you can.
Yeah. So I am a 90s kid. Some people think I look really young. I do look young, but I was born in the 90s, late 90s. So are we going to be less interested in 80s and 90s? I mean, I think if you go back to why a lot of people collect, we spoke on kind of like the nostalgia aspect. And nostalgia for me would be from what, you can't remember past a certain age, but, let's say like 8 to 12, 13 years old. That would be like the early 2000s. So I just don't know if that interest will be there for my generation. But I do think, for kids who are 8, in that age range during the 80s and 90s, I think that'll be kind of where they try and go back to.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense for sure. Chrissy says, this is the crossover, right? That was last night, Chris. That was last night. Adventures with Troy says, Jeremy, 20 or 30K is a good plan for national. Yeah, that's a lot of money, Adventures with Troy. That's a lot of money, right? Now it's not going to get you nearly as far as it would have in 2019 or earlier, but it's a lot of money for anybody, for the most part. Well, not anybody, for 99.9% of people, that's a lot of money. So I think that's a good plan. Yep. Jordan says, what has been the highlight of your hobby experience so far? That's a good question.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like at a certain point it becomes cliche, but it really is like the people. I think that's what I was missing in the beginning. As I said, like I didn't really feel like I had hobby friends. So like I was interested in it, but I didn't know how long I would be in it. But I think once I started to have those friends and build those relationships, it just made me want to stay even more, because now it's like our common ground, but we also talk about things outside of cards. So I would definitely say the friends that I've met have been the highlight for sure.
And, I mean, you're relatively new back in the hobby in 2020. So I'm going to speak with some experience and say that's so true. You'll find that'll become truer and truer. And I say that because, being in the hobby as long as I have, really, it started in the early 2000s for me, making hobby friends. And some of those people are now the closest friends. I have Darcy, who's been in the chat tonight. We've been bros, like literally like brothers. I don't mean like, hey, yo, bro, but we are like, yo, bro, too. But we've been like good friends for going on 15 years now, to the point where I've had his whole family over to my parents' place in where they used to live by the lake. He brought his kids over. They swam his kids swam in my folks' swimming pool, and like, we we talk about many more things than just hobby. We become like really good friends. Not just him. I've got several people in my life like that. So as you know, the years go by, some of these people that you're becoming friends with now, don't be surprised if, you know, they become lifelong, really good friends. And that's one of the best rewards the hobby has offered so many of us is are these friendships. And they're not, you know, I like my hobby friends the best because we have that in common. You know, we have, at the end of the day, we have that stability of the hobby that keeps us friends. Although sometimes there's friction too. There can be friction in these friendships as well. Just all depends, you know, especially if you're dealing with each other, right? You always say, don't do business with family, you know, don't lend money to friends, those kinds of cliches. So you have to be careful and navigate these friendships carefully, because if you sell your car to a friend and it goes down in value, or you buy a card from your friend, but you don't pay them right away, you know, it's like those kinds of things. Anyway, talking about friendships, the longer they go, the more opportunities sometimes there are for there to be little bumps in the road along the way too. But it's not always all roses, but in the long run, it really is, for me at least.
Yeah. And I would say, just kind of like to add, I just thought of like a recent, you know, experience. So I go to a local card shop pretty often, like, and one of the guys there, we talk like really frequently about cars and things like that. And then last Friday, I hadn't been to a Braves game yet, and I've been in Atlanta. I'm like, oh, I got to go to a Braves game. So I just was like, hey, do you just want to go to the Braves game? Because I was like, oh, like, I consider him like a friend now. And so it's like, let's just go to the game. You know, so it's just kind of nice to have, you know, meet people in around Atlanta as well. So
that's awesome. And that's because of the hobby, right? You know, like I've come to learn that that's how life works. I always thought that you made friends through school and jobs, because that was my experience. So thankful for the hobby, because made so many friends, and many of whom I've never seen face to face, like physically, sure, virtually, but not face to face. And that's why I'm so excited for the National. Is one of the reasons is among the cards, which I'm excited for too. I'm so excited to meet all the people I haven't met yet in person. So
exactly.
It's going to be great for sure. Mosaic Mind says, please be interested in 80s junk wax. I got to sell this stuff. I like this. Chris says, I was born in the 80s and I have cards from the 50s, which speaks to you being born in the 90s. Would you collect cards from the 90s too? I'll do one better. I'm born in the 1900s. I have cards from the 1800s. So, you know, I mean, that can happen too, right?
Centuries.
Go centuries, exactly. Makes a great comment here. Everyone grows into the hobby differently. And that's why I said it earlier. When anyone comes to my booth at a card show, one of the first questions I ask them is, how do you approach the hobby? Literally, how do you approach the hobby? I kind of follow up with like, what do you collect? Why do you love it? That kind of thing. But I've been asking that for years. How do you approach the hobby? Because there's no two stories that are exactly the same. Even Chris and Christina, who do this thing as partners, they do it together. They both have even though they're unique, their approach will still have a few subtle differences from each other, because they're two different people. Simple as that, right? Chrissy says, Michael Jordan is the Michael Jordan of Michael Jordans. That's great. That should go on a t-shirt. That's awesome. I like that. Jordan says, how has your approach of the hobby changed over the past 3 to 6 months? Or let me just, has your approach changed in the last 3 to 6 months? And if so, how?
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously when I first got in, I was like opening boxes, and like watching breaks and things like that. And I still enjoy watching breaks, but I'd say now it's more so just like focusing on a specific card that I want, and like really like being more invested in doing more research in it on eBay and like through other platforms as well. So I think that's one thing in like how my buying cards has changed. But another thing that's changed is, you know, Women of the Hobby, it essentially just started within the past 3 to 6 months. So it's been more of a focus of mine, is I've found, you know, some of my time that I used to spend looking up cards is more so creating content for Women of the Hobby. So that's a little bit like not taking away. It's definitely like I enjoy doing what I do, but just trying to balance all of that at the same time is a lot.
And you know what? Doing your show and creating content is hobby. To me,
Exactly.
this is the hobby. I'm hobbying right now with you, with
Hobbying
Christina
about
earlier.
the hobby.
What's that?
I said hobbying about the hobby.
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of a hobby within the hobby, right? Like but to me, it's still the hobby. Like the song, like my new intro song says, sports cards are a lifestyle. It's the hobby is a lifestyle for me. It just really is, and this is just part of it. The cards are obviously the foundation, but so are the people, and so is the time we spend. It's all part of the hobby, and we're lucky that it's such a versatile hobby that offers us so many benefits besides just putting cards in albums and having whatever kind of psychological gratification we feel from completing a set or a checklist or something like that. There's so much more to it. Delon says, national sounds fun. I would scout it out, walk the floor, first maybe do a lap, takes the overwhelming out. I'm going to give you one piece of advice, Delon, or anyone else who takes that approach. If you're going to do that first lap to take the overwhelming out of a card show, don't look in the showcases too closely, because if you see a card that you don't buy during that lap, it might be gone by the time you get back and you'll be disappointed. So either do that lap and kind of just kind of graze over all the showcases, or do a lap, but be prepared to spend a few bucks along the way or make a couple trades during that lap. Chris's are undervalued and like overvalued at the same time. There's a lot of Chris's here. Is where we're coming from. Chris's are high pop. I saw that comment earlier because we have a lot of Chris's here right now. Adventures. Oh, sorry, right here. Preach it, Jeremy. So true. We're all a part of this fun hobby. Yeah, even everybody watching right now, like we are all hobbying together, consuming content. I do it all the time. It's all a part of it. Okay, let's talk a bit about the community now for you, okay? Because I want to come back to, again, ladies' night, although I know we're not focusing too much on all about just what it's like being a woman, but I want to talk a bit about the community that you have created through your channel, and what other platforms are there that you're partaking in where it's kind of female centric within the hobby?
Yeah, definitely. So as I've mentioned, I work to create Women of the Hobby, which is essentially we're on Instagram and YouTube. So just bringing more visibility to women, just sharing more women to all people of the hobby, just saying, we're out here too, type of thing. And then some other platforms that I was introduced to that I wasn't aware of until I made this as well there is the Women in Sports Cards Facebook group. I think Christina mentioned that as well. So there's a Facebook group, a good amount of members as well. I think over 100. And there's other just small chats as well with different people. So just all these different avenues to try and go out and just build more of a community and kind of grow it for women as well.
So are you part of on Instagram, is there a private chat for women that you're part of?
There is. It's hobbyistas, and if people want to be invited, if you're a woman, you can message the Women of the Hobby account. I do have a small concern that I might look to create a solution for in the future, because Instagram group chats limit to 32 people. We're not at 32 people yet, but if we do happen to reach that, I will try and create a solution where we can still all chat together.
Can I ask how many you do have in this group?
Yeah, I would say, I haven't checked the numbers, but I would say there's at least probably 16, 17, 15, that type of number.
That's a good number. That's a good group for a private chat on Instagram, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And how many members are there of the hobbyista group? Do you know, on Facebook?
Oh, so Women in Sports Cards is the Facebook group. But yep, there's over 100 members. And actually, speaking of the national, though, I remember this post to kind of call out. So Sarah Layton, who I think is connected with Layton Sports Cards, she mentioned that at the national, she'll be handing out, I wrote down the Facebook message, but she has drawstring bags, and she's going to hand out little flyers with the QR code to join the Facebook group. So I think she's going to be handing those out to any women that she sees at the national, just to kind of get that group bolstered up as more.
That's really cool. Is there going to be at the national, is there going to be a ladies' night sort of thing, or any gathering that you are aware of?
I don't know for sure. I think there's definitely been talks of some type of night where all the women can get together. So I'm not sure of any details exactly yet, but I do think I've seen that posted in the group as well as we should all get together one night. So definitely, if you want more details, I would definitely recommend trying to join that group or just like reaching out as well.
And as far as the national goes, and you being there, are you like is like to me it's like let's get excited for the national. Let's get as many people there as we can, male, female. Are you finding, is there like a bit of um, a motion right now among the female collectors in on the Facebook group, in the Facebook chat, to be like, yeah, let's go, like come to the national? Are you going? Is there excitement among in the female communication circles about it as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, we've all talked about, when are we all going to be together so we can all meet in person. I think some people, they've met at more regional shows and, wherever throughout. So a few people have met in person, but we try and want to get like a bigger group together. And I've definitely seen people post in both the Facebook and the Instagram chat, as well, of, like I just booked my like flight to the national, who else is going, type of thing. So for sure.
So y'all are like, let's make sure we hook up and see each other. I mean, I'm in there's one Instagram group I'm in as well, where everyone's like, yeah, let's meet up, let's do a night together, that kind of thing, so it's not just, I think there's a lot of groups of pockets of people that are excited about it, that want to meet up, and why wouldn't the women group have this? Why wouldn't you be doing the same thing, right? It only makes sense, especially as you guys are trying to grow your presence within the hobby. It just makes sense. I think it's really cool. Totally different topic.
Mm-hmm.
There's the whole collector investor sort of thing in the hobby that's been a topic of discussion for quite some time now. Where do you fall? Obviously you're a collector. I feel it. I sense it just from our discussion, what you told me, but do you look at the hobby as an investor at all, as an investment? Do you do any investing, or are you pure collecting?
Yeah, I would say I think I tried to describe my like mentality before, and one of the ways I try and put it is I invest to collect. So I might buy a certain card to hope that its value grows so I can buy a bigger card of something that I'm actually collecting, so to speak. So that's kind of what I like to do. And I think one thing that I also, in a way, I feel like, to kind of minimize some of the risk that there might be, is any card that I buy, I do try and think, if this card wasn't worth anything, but I still want it, type of like that kind of aspect. So that is something, if these cards aren't worth anything, do I still want to keep them? Yeah, I'll keep that. Like I'll pay that for that card. So it's kind of something that I like to look at as well.
Yeah, makes sense. That's kind of, I always say that I'm a investor by consequence, because
Hmm.
I've always been a collector, but all of a sudden these cards became worth a lot, and it's hard for me to not want to acquire nice cards still. But when you're spending, a lot of money, whatever that means to you, on a card, it's hard not to think about what it might be worth one day. It's
Right.
impossible, at least for me, to not think about that. So, collector at the core, but investor by consequence, and just kind of is what it is. Mosaic Mind says collecting better than investing. I think that's what the greater than sign would mean, or I think that's what he's saying. Chris says ladies' night in Chicago. Well, I'm following that Instagram. Chris Hayes, like that. Thank you very much for that compliment. Angie says, does the National have a large hockey content? What sport sells the most? Well, I'll take this question, Sam. Baseball is number one of the National, like by far, followed by basketball, followed by football. Next year, maybe followed by soccer, and then probably followed by hockey. Large, I mean, there's lots of hockey there. If you were to take it all and put it in one room, you're going to have a great assortment of hockey. But when you sprinkle it between all the other sports that are throughout this room, it doesn't feel like a lot. I'd say it's probably, but I mean, if I had to quantify it, it's probably like, I don't know, 3 to 5% of the cards in the show are hockey. It's that low, but there's millions of cards there. So you're going to see a lot of hockey cards there nonetheless. Jordan says, are you willing to share some of your favorite recent pickups? You showed one just from today earlier. Anything else close by that recent that's among your favorites?
Yeah, actually, I picked up this card. It was kind of on a whim, just like at the new shop that I went to. I just picked it up again. I kind of like the weird. I don't want to say weird, but just like out there, just different things that you haven't seen. So I picked up this like bigger card. It's like an MJ's final floor. It's just like a piece of the floor that he played on for his last game. It's like a bigger card. It's like
Yeah.
for comparison, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
So that was something that I picked up today, and I was pretty excited about it because I was like, oh, this is neat. I don't have a card this size. But then I also thought about, how am I going to store this? Now it's more of a display piece, I think.
Exactly. That's how I feel about cards that are not the standard sports card size, and I don't love those cards as much as I do the standard size cards. So I'm with you there. For me, Jordan, I've got one card here that just came in, which is a pretty obscure card. I don't know if many people will know it, but it's from 1999 in the game. Very rare card that I didn't think I'd ever find a copy of, but I did, and I pounced when I saw it. This, to me, this is hockey didn't have precious metal gems in the 90s. The first PMG in hockey was in 2012, but this is from 1999. And to me, it's not a PMG by brand, but it basically is for me. It's the Patrick Waugh in the game Heritage series. And it's the green. It's hard to see in this light here, but this is to me the first. I consider it to be like a PMG, even though it's not a Fleer card, but it looks like it could be. It's got the same kind of foil with a little bit of texture to it, and it is numbered out of 10.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and there's the blues are out of 100 and the reds are out of 1,000. So these greens. I mean, you might see one or two greens of any player on the checklist every year. I would think you just really never see them. And so I have the Wayne Gretzky. I have the Wayne Gretzky from this set, which I got a while ago, and it's probably one of my best and favorite cards that people don't really know about. But so anyway, to pair it up with Patrick Waugh to me was a no-brainer. So I'll show that card.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you know Patrick Waugh?
No. Yeah, hockey is not really one of my sports, especially like I think hockey is bigger in the US, obviously in the North, and I'm in the South, and it's just never been. So, but the Carolina Hurricanes, they did win one year. My dad actually went to the playoff game. He didn't go to like the final or anything, but one of the playoff games the year they won. So
yeah.
That's
well,
nice.
they just got knocked out recently in the playoffs this year, so they're a pretty good team actually. Hopefully it'll grow in that geographic area. I hope so. Okay, let's run through some more comments. We're going to cut this off, guys, in about 5 minutes. It's getting late out where Sam is. She's on the East Coast, but this has been awesome so far. I've really enjoyed it, Sam.
Yeah.
Jordan says, Jeremy, do you have any new advice for people attending the National for the first time this year? I mean, the same advice that we'd give, right? Wear good shoes. My key pieces of advice, as far as your comfort goes, wear good shoes, because your knees and your legs will kill you every night. Trust me, you won't even want to walk by day 3 or 4. If you're wearing if you walk in like flip-flops or something, do not wear flip-flops. You got to wear good shoes. Walking or like a good pair of padded shoes. And my other advice, I've said it already tonight. You see that card you really want. If it's rare, don't expect it's going to be there when you come back in an hour. Just don't. It won't be. It likely won't be if it's a rare card. Those are my 2 pieces of advice. Mosaic Mind says collecting and collectors are the fundamental core of the hobby. Investing is peripheral and super risky. Yes, but this is where I always come back to this. If you collect expensive cards, are you not investing at the same time? I don't know. Maybe you're not. I consider it to somewhat be, because I can't spend over $1,000 on a card and not care if that card goes down to 0. It's just not who I am. I understand some people can, but for me, if I spend over $1,000 on a card for $100 goes down to 0, not going to change my life. Even $1,000, but $1,000 is going to hurt. $10,000, that card cannot go down in value to 0. I'm going to cry. I'm going to be very upset. So to me, you kind of have to consider the future value of a card when you're spending significant money on it, and that's going to be different for everybody.
Right. And yeah, I think I agree. Like, you kind of want whatever you buy, like, to hold its value, or else it's kind of just like, I don't know, it's like anything else. Like if you buy food, obviously when you buy food, it's gonna like lose its value. I don't know, like I
Right.
don't, you know what, like you know what I mean, kind of like you
Yeah,
want
it's
something
like
to hold its value.
you do, or you want to get enough utility out of it
Hmm.
where it pays for itself. Like food, for example, a pair of sunglasses. Let's take sunglasses for an example. You can buy a nice pair of sunglasses for $300-400 versus $15 at the drugstore. But if you're going to pay $300-400, that's not a pair of glasses that you want to lose, right?
Right.
$15, you don't care if you lose them. $300-400, you don't want to lose those sunglasses. You want to have them for a few years at least. Like it's funny, this totally off topic, but we have one of those handheld Dyson like dust buster kind of vacuums that we use all the time. And I've had this thing for like 7-8 years. And just today, talking to my wife, is like, I think we need a new one. This thing, you pull it, it doesn't keep going. We got to keep on re-pulling the trigger. It's like, let's just buy a new one. Like what, a couple $100? So I've had this one for 8 years. What's it cost us? $25 a year for this thing? I'm okay paying $25 a year for this thing, right? I've gotten enough value out of it that I don't care that it's now going to be garbage and worth zero, right? There's no salvage value there. But we've got our utility out of it already, right? Sports cars are different. We don't eat them, we don't burn them for heat, right? We don't wear them. So we want there to be some value in the long run. You and I are on the same page there, Sam. Mosaic says investing drove the junk wax era. How did that work out for the investors? Yeah, I hear you, Mosaic, but a completely different set of circumstances altogether, in my opinion. So I don't, I just don't, that happened last year with the base cards. It was just too many differences there. Aaron Rasmus stopping by to say hi, good evening. Glad you enjoyed the discussion, the diversity. Thank you, Aaron. Angie says, being a Montreal Canadiens fan, that Patrick Waugh card looks mighty beautiful. Thank you very much. Jordan says, will there be a clubhouse after this? Unsure, Jordan, for now. I may check it out, but I'm not deliberately going to set one up tonight. Chris says, thank you both. Thank you, Chris, for joining. Mosaic Mind says, Jeremy, no one is bidding on my upper deck Morgan Geeky. Why is that? I don't even know who that is, to be honest. Chris Hayes says, consumption versus utility. Absolutely. Knows what I was talking about. Thank you. Clubhouse is dead to me, says Chris. Awesome. Adventures with Choice is great content tonight. Thanks, Jeremy and Sam. Asking for a friend. Is there an after hour show coming up? Well, you just heard me speak to that. Maybe. Mosaic Mine, in 2020, there was a crazy flipping frenzy. It was fun for the few who made out big time, but how long did it last? Exactly. But let's keep in mind, what they were flipping were not cards that were investable. That was proven. There are still investable cards in the hobby. And there we have Christina. Thanks, Jeremy and Sam. Great efforts. Thank you very much, Christina. Glad to still have you here. And thank you for the show earlier. Thank you. Love what you collect. Awesome. Coming from a lady who enjoyed Ladies' Night on Sports Cards Live. Sam, listen, there's a few things on the my topics that we didn't get to. Is there anything that we didn't talk about yet that you want to address? Do you want to? We've had Sam's Instagram and the name of her YouTube channel on the ticker all episodes. So make sure you're following her on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to her channel, Women of the Hobby. I'm a subscriber. I've watched most of her episodes. They're enjoyable. I trust me on that. So please give her the follow, the subscribe. Is there anything that you want to address before we wind down?
No. I just want to say thank you again, for having us on, and for Ladies' Night. It was awesome to be here. I'm sure Christina echoed the same as well. But yeah, thank you for setting this up. And I think it's been great just to kind of, I think the more opportunities we get to explain, our interests, why we're here, those types of topics, I think are just important for everyone to just get more education on as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and it's just good to make these cross connections between people who are Instagrammers, YouTubers, whatever it is, right? People in the hobby. It's great. Okay, we'll have a look at the final comments. We'll wrap this up. Everybody, thank you. Hit the thumbs up on the video, both for myself and for Sam. If you're not subscribed yet to Sports Cards Live, please hit that subscribe button. Hit 3,000 subscribers last week. That was awesome. Big milestone. I remember when I thought, 3,000 seems so far away, but we hit it. So I'm very grateful to everyone who has subscribed. And when we hit 4,000, 5,000, maybe 10,000 one day, I'll still be as thankful for each and every one of you guys. Angie says, Upper Deck Hockey Extended Series 3 coming out. Any interest? Yeah, I'm interested, Angie. Apparently it's going to be very insert driven, which I love. I'm an inserts guy. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. It's not Young Guns driven. I'll let everybody know that right now. Terry Fortune, good evening, says great women representing the hobby night. Thanks, Terry, for being here all night. So at the beginning as well. Mosaic says thanks for the steam. Good luck. Good stuff. Good luck to you both. Thank you, Mosaic. Hope to see you back next week, where we'll be recapping the virtual Sport Card Expo that is next weekend, everybody. Let me throw that up on the banner really quick here. Check that out. It's free to attend. sportcardexpo.com is next weekend. Here we go. Chris Hayes, Sam, you're a beast. Thanks for all the content. That's a compliment. That's a compliment.
Thank you.
Joe says, definitely want to go to the National sometime, but need to save that cash for my wedding first. Your priorities are backwards, Joe. Hobby first, always. I kid. BTS says, do you know she collects cards? Yes, she does know she collects cards. Yam says, thanks, Sam and Christina. Two great people in the hobby. Thank you, Yam. Much appreciated. Jordan says, Metal Universe postponed to 2027. No, but coming this summer soon, hopefully. Stream. Thank you, Mosaic, for clarifying. Thank you, Jordan, for your participation tonight and for being here. Slow Pitch, thank you very much. Great to have you. There's Chris from House of Jordans. Thank you so much, Chris. Joe R. Haha. Okay, that's good. Sam, hang tight. We're 2 seconds over time. 2 minutes, I mean. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Great night. Appreciate you all. Have a great